get wisdom. Wisdom is the foundational thing that a man can have, or that anybody can have, in their goal of progressing in their life journey and becoming the person that they want to be, which is the goal of this channel, right? It's to have success and reach that goal while enjoying the process as well. And more than just a pleasure enjoyment of it, but one where your mind is settled and you're not constantly losing your mental state every day or every week, but you can sort of continue on the path and keep walking even if you stumble, which you will do, but you can keep going down that path. So wisdom is how we do this. Wisdom is what we get through experiencing trials and learning from experiences. And it is the experience of doing the things right. But more than that, it's what comes after that. It's how you react to that, the principles that you learn from that. And wisdom is something that may take, months or years to really be uncovered, but it begins with a seed that's planted in that event or in that thing that you courageously do. Maybe it's something that you didn't want to do, It's something that you had to overcome your fears to do it, or something you didn't want to do, whatever, or it's just a new experience. But once you do that thing, you realize the importance of doing it, that it was actually more of a principle that you did it rather of just, I did this thing that I didn't want to do. It's that principle rather than, just simply doing it because you were scared to do it or something. Or, I can finally say I did it. It's more than that. It's the principle of doing something that you didn't want to do, right? It's doing the difficult thing. And wisdom is the gift of that. Wisdom is the reward for doing that, It's sort of, I look at it in a sense of like, it is sort of the adding to your character. So you sort of have your person and have your character. And when you go through these hard things and then you get wisdom from it, it sort of builds up your person, right? Your character. Sort of like if you were to like gamify it, where you'd have like your point level goes up for wisdom. I know it's a really bad example, but I view it in a way where it's every experience gives you greater wisdom. And it's not perfect. You can't it doesn't directly correlate with how hard it was, the amount of wisdom that you'll get. And you can't, obviously, make wisdom into different point categories, and you can't categorize it so easily as you'd want to. But it's something that you understand in reflection, right? It's that's why reflection is necessary to become the person that you want to be and to visualize who you want to be. You have to reflect on your experiences and the wisdom that you've got from that, right? You have to purposefully and, intentionally understand the purpose of those events that you went through, and then what the wisdom that you get from that is, right? Wisdom is our response to a second chance for something that we originally failed at, because we fail it and then we get the wisdom, and the next time that it comes about, the next time it happens, we have a defense against that. And it's not a defense, but it's like a tool in your toolkit. It's something that you have prepared for that. So in all senses of the term, wisdom, is principle to get. And I say that because in the Bible, in Proverbs chapter 4, it talks about wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And all of your getting, get understanding. Exalt her and she will promote you. But it's this idea, in the Proverbs, wisdom is exemplified as as a woman, shouts from the top of the city and shouts to everyone, go this way, do this thing. It's sort of the logical and reasoning part of our mind, and that's what I see wisdom as. And I don't see it as something that, you pay a certain price for, or you reach it once you get this amount of money. It's something that you get from learning from experiences and picking yourself back up. And you can still go through all that trauma and all that pain, but if you don't reflect on what its purpose was for your life, then you don't get wisdom. Then you're just more of a broken person. It's sort of like when you go to the gym, right? As you can tell, I go to the gym but you work out and it breaks down the muscle, and then you rebuild it. It rebuilds itself, and you eat food and you recover to help that process. Obviously, I don't know if that's scientifically true, but just as a general idea, that's what happens. And it's the same way with wisdom. You go through these experiences where you're, even like positive things, like where I was saying at the beginning, where you do something that you didn't want to do. Maybe like you conquered a fear of heights or water, or of whatever, and now you're more well equipped with that. Or it could be a negative thing where it's like you experience trauma or pain or the loss of someone, and you have to go through it, and you recognize that you got wisdom from it because you endured something hard and were able to come out the other side and draw something positive from it. And that's what wisdom is too. It's looking for the positive aspects in anything. It's this whole idea of positive thinking. And that's what wisdom is all about. It's about extracting the positives out of a situation and putting them as principles that you can put in your life so you can face other situations like that, right? Because the opposite of wisdom, would be, I guess, like foolishness. But it's this idea where you still go through these traumas and these trials of life that are inevitable, but you don't learn anything from them, and you make the same mistake the next time. Not saying that some wisdoms are gained through, multiple trials, but it's when you don't have that reflection and you just sort of see it as bad luck or something, right? Instead of a failure that's building you up to who you are going to be and who you are meant to be. So I see wisdom as this thing that builds a person, that builds a man and has become the foundation for how they live and how they act. Because you can tell a wise person by how they interact with other people, with how they go about themselves, with how they respond to insults and compliments alike. Because I think that response tells you a lot about the wisdom, because we don't know how much wisdom this person has, if you can even objectify it in that way, but you don't know how much wisdom that they have. You sort of just have to see by their response. For instance, if someone is very calm when it's a bad situation arrives, or when everybody else is freaking out, they can keep their head and keep their wits about them. Or another example is when they take compliments well, and instead of only focusing on the negative things, oh well, thank you, but I'm still this way, they can just accept it for what it is and be glad and rejoice in that fact. Or if they're insulted, instead of being dwelling on that insult and making it true, they can see it as, in one way, maybe if it actually is true, they can grow in that area. Or B, it's just not true, and this is a chance where I'm being given, where I can, kind of like I've been saying, where I can dwell on this negative thought. I can make the thought my own, or I could just move on because it's not my own and it's just a thought that came across my head, and just not pay attention to it and sort of let it slide off their back and not worry about it. And this is what principle is it's this foundation for how we live. And a lot of people may not like to talk about it because that's so like mystical or old sounding, or whatever they want to say, that it's not in newer terminology. But I think it's helpful to understand when we sort of are struggling with decisions to make, whether they're in the moment or maybe they're more long-term decisions, or we're struggling with staying on a path or a commitment that we have, and we start to doubt and we start to despair. We can rely on that foundational wisdom that we've received, right? This is why reflection is so important, because it gives us time to not make the same mistake, but to instead improve on where we were last time. And when you're on the process of understanding wisdom, you are sort of always building yourself up, even if sometimes it's by less, sometimes it's by more. But you're never digging yourself in a hole going deeper, but you're always furthering yourself. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Let me know your thoughts about wisdom, and if you think you see it in your life as well, and something that you want to talk about, because I don't see anybody my age talking about the importance of getting wisdom and becoming foundational in your values and having that best represent your life rather than just emotions. That's one more short thing I want to talk about is I'll probably make more videos on this, but it's emotions versus values. How do you react based off a situation? You should react based off your values and what you believe, right? This is your wisdom. You should react based off of that wisdom, instead of your emotions, which is what humans all first go to react with. We want to react with, these almost like good feeling emotions, whether that's anger, depression, sadness, jealousy, these negative emotions, or even like extreme happiness that really isn't founded in anything. Or, if something goes your way, you sort of put your heart and set your heart on that. And what that does is it distracts you because it's so fleeting with whatever emotion it is. It's so fleeting, it doesn't last. Whereas your values keep you more consistent, even though they go up and down, in life. They keep you more consistent because they keep you more on that straight line, on that straight path, right? And that's why values mean more than emotions. Emotions have their place in our world, and I'll get into that in more videos. But values are what keep you anchored and what keep you consistent. So if you're searching for an answer for, why you're not staying consistent in whatever you want to, accomplish, whether, it's some sort of dieting or weight loss plan, or going to the gym, or making videos such as this, whatever it is, if you're not staying consistent, the reason is because you're not holding to your values through it all. You're not holding to your values over your emotions, and the wisdom over your how you feel in the moment, right? So this is a clear distinction that we have to make, because it's going to improve our joy and our overall happiness, right? If we live based off values, then we're going to live more consistently, more joyfully, because we won't have those extreme ups and downs that we have when we rely off our emotions. And this correlates, one more thing, to emotional intelligence, which is, they call it the EQ, compared to like the IQ, intelligence. But it's emotional intelligence is another way to put it, where it's, how you handle your emotions and what you use them for. Because on one hand, you could use there's the positive aspects of emotions, where, if you experience loss in your life, you have to grieve that process. That's part of the process, is you sort of have to grieve. Not for too long, but not for too little, right? You have to do it right, in the right way. Same thing for, let's say you get a promotion at your job, or, anything goes your way, anything positive that maybe you've, prayed for or wanted to happen, when it goes your way, you can respond with happiness and joyfulness, instead of being like, oh, well, something else is going to go wrong, or, oh, well, that's nothing compared to this thing that happened, like last year. But you take it for what it is and you simply enjoy it, right? And people who do this right and rely off their values have a high emotional intelligence, right? They're able to understand situations better than other people and take life in a more consistent manner, and more of where they're not moved as easily as someone who just relies on emotions and reacts strictly off emotions, without thinking. This correlates also with like logical thinking and stuff like that. I'm kind of just rambling right now, but there's a lot that I talked about in this video. But if you want like a main takeaway, I would say place values over emotions, and make sure you react based off your values rather than your emotions. So one thing that you could do is write out on a piece of paper, a notebook that you have, and write out your values. Just keep going. Obviously there's the big ones, respect, honesty, kindness, love, and all this stuff. But write out your values. Maybe try to aim for like 10, 15, if you can get that many. But write out your emotions. Don't write out your emotions. Write out your values, and then also write out your emotions, and then kind of compare them and say like, okay, if this situation happened, or maybe this situation happened last week, I'm going to react in this way based off this value, instead of how I did react with this emotion. It's sort of comparing things and putting things into perspective, so you can better, react that way and have the better outcome in the end. So anyway, that's enough of me yapping, but use that tool if you want to. Again, let me know your experiences and if you found this helpful for you. Anyway, have a good day and thank you for watching.